Well, happy day, everybody. I'm Daniel Brafman, holistic health and performance coach, and I'm super excited to have this particular episode of the Biohackers Forum. One of the things I want to be clear about and why I'm doing this project, I mean, obviously, you know, the people that know me know I can talk about this stuff and really wear people out with it, frankly, is I'm trying to help people get out of their heads a little bit with what is this biohacking thing. We're all biohackers, whether we know it or not. We're all biohacking all the time. I want to kind of humanize this whole process and let people sort of that have intentionally been biohacking for a good period of time. You know, we all have these, you know, long storied lives, and that's biohacking. We're all getting the results of the experiences that we've done and the experiences that we've had. That's biohacking. But some of us have been very intentionally looking at things that we want to experience and going, I'm going to experience that, and made a plan and repeated behaviors and made adjustments around the results. And those are specifically the biohackers that I'm featuring on these talks. I want to give everybody an opportunity to see that there are people who, for a very long time, Kathleen and I have been doing this long before there was a vocabulary that we're currently using for biohacking. You know, I mean, whether it was super compensation at some point in the fitness industry, or whether it was just an apple a day keeps the doctor away, you know, I mean, that's biohacking. Unfortunately, you know, there are a lot of people who, they're bungling their way through. They're sort of like in tarot, there's a card called the Fool. And he looks really happy, actually. I mean, I want to be that guy, except he's got one foot on the edge of a cliff. And that's what I think that we're trying to help people realize, is that, you know, we've had our foot on that edge of a cliff, but we've also recognized it and we've done something about it. And that is what these incredible stories are about. So I'm going to pin Kathleen and make her the center of attention for a minute, more than a minute, about 15 minutes. Kathleen Troust is a very, very special person in my world. It's, you know, to be candid, there have been challenges and there have been successes in knowing Kathleen Troust. But one thing for sure that I've always gotten is to watch a person of great purpose grow and demonstrate for me what it takes to continuously at any age redirect life and take things by, you know, take a bull by the horn. Kathleen is a doctor of physical therapy. She's formerly a fitness trainer and an athlete. She's a mother of two. She's a social entrepreneur. And, you know, I've gotten to watch her make all these adjustments, but I also know as a fellow athlete that she's been biohacking very intentionally for a long time. And to this, I'll just say again, in the definition of biohacking, it's just manipulating the variables in a specific way to get a desired result. That's biohacking. So, you know, we're not going to have to talk about the genetics on this conversation. We're not going to talk about anything that sounds sciencey, frankly, because we're really trying to get out of our heads and into our feeling selves. So, Kathleen, welcome. Can you talk?
Yes, I can. I think there's some background noise.
Yeah, let me mute everybody who's not me. Done.
Right. Okay. Hi.
Hey, Kathleen. Welcome to our call. So I just have a few questions for you, Kathleen, and I'd like to allow a few minutes for each question. You know, as I said earlier in the call, we both have a long, storied biohacking lifestyle. And we just didn't call it that, you know. We called it being an athlete. We called it being a student. We called it being a lover. You know, whatever we called it, we called it. So I want to sort of ask you about your life and as a biohacker and, and somebody who really is very focused on the physical part of, the biohacking, being a trainer. I've had the privilege of seeing Kathleen work out. I've had the privilege of seeing Kathleen in the bathing suit. This woman walks the talk. She's the real deal. So I'm really excited to hear from her. As an athlete, how did adopting this specific, very goal-oriented lifestyle help you have the experience you're having now?
Wow. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Daniel. I'm always in awe of what you're saying because I so respect your knowledge in this area. I mean, you're way up, out there in the stratosphere as far as your knowledge, and I have so much respect. So thanks for having me. And, I have an interesting story about my, journey into biohacking. And it was kind of by accident that my grandmother, who was a biohacker, and her license plate said sexy senior citizen on it, and she drove a 300ZX, okay? And she had the white perm hair and everything. And when I was 10 years old, she took me to a health club, a spa lady. If anybody remembers what that is, it's probably the equivalent of Curves today. But this is the day and age of Jane Fonda high impact aerobics. And I used to go visit her, and she took me to one of her classes, and I couldn't do it. It was so hard. I actually wasn't an athlete. I wasn't very good at running long distances, being a team sports, eye-hand coordination. That was very challenging for me. But I soon found an area of athleticism that was fun. And that was that physical push, just feeling like I could accomplish that. I became a biohacker, and maybe it's in the genes too. But, it also came from a darker side of me that was, I didn't like my body. I was one of those tween girls that didn't feel very good about myself. And fitness was an outlet for me to feel good about my body. And that's kind of, truthfully, there's a little shame in that, in saying that too, because I don't know, I've never really shared that. But when I was 16 years old, I wanted to join a gym. What the gym membership. And again, it was somewhat by accident that I joined the gym, and the people that introduced me into the world of bodybuilding and weightlifting were just these big meatheads. Okay. These heads taught me how to biohack my body. And it really led me down a passion of understanding the body and anatomy and seeing what my body was doing anatomically, muscles building. And then I got into swimming and water polo in college. But it did drive my interest in studying health sciences and becoming an anatomy expert in college, and then, fitness. And now here we go. So, sometimes it's just a coincidental chain of events. But it was driven by an inner drive to compete with myself, as well as a drive to feel good about myself physically. That's kind of where I started.
Wow, that's awesome. We get the past, the present, and we'll get into the future. So I do, as a parent, I actually want to sort of wind not too far into the past, but just pre-pregnancy. And I have, this is a leading question because I, as a teacher, I tell everybody if there's even a possibility that they're going to have children, the instant that I talk to them, they should be on a prenatal, nutrition sort of biohacking regimen. And I'm curious I don't know your age that you had children. I don't know if you had any difficulty having children. But I know that you wanted to have healthy children. I know that you did things to make sure that you did, and you continue to do so. So I'd like to hear that part of your story.
That's so interesting. I was terrified to have children, believe it or not. I was scared of being a parent and scared of that responsibility. I grew up actually having to babysit my whole life because I have 4 siblings. So it took a while for us to make that decision. But when I did, it was like decision done. And I got right into all the research of how to have a healthy pregnancy. And in fact, a book that really inspired me was a Deepak Chopra book, holistic to something, I can't remember the whole title, but talk about biohacking from the mind, body, and spirit. That's really what it was. And what we know is that our mental health impacts pregnancy, our physical health impacts pregnancy, our emotional stress impacts pregnancy, all that impacts things that are happening in utero. And I became very intentional. I did hot yoga because I was already doing yoga, but I did yoga, power vinyasa yoga up to 38 weeks. I just got very intentional about that. I figure like we've got one shot. We've got one shot to do everything we can do within our control to create a healthy outcome. And, I just didn't want to leave any stone unturned.
So now that your sons, how old are they?
5 and 7.
So I know that you at that age are exposed to the world beyond your perfect little world. And, where you can't have what used to just be almost everybody's lunch even taken to school anymore because some kid could go into anaphylaxis. It's a very different kind of world. And because you're a parent of children that age, you get to see a really, really very motivating reason to know about biohacking. And I'd like to hear, if your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. Well, I had multiple siblings who really struggled with ADD. And I say that with hesitation because I just don't believe in labels. I just think it's money-making situation and people need to find answers, but I don't like labels. But they were challenged with concentration and ability to cope and ability, you get it. But when my son was 5 years old, he started showing signs of such difficulty concentrating, he couldn't walk across the room to pick up a toy. And it wasn't just him being a boy. He literally came to me one day and said, "Mommy, I can't concentrate." And it was hard. It's heartbreaking because I've done everything within my control to, help him develop in a healthy way. But, we learned that there's things we can't control. We live on a main road. So we've got cars driving right in front of our house, blowing pollution, in our house. And, we may not use pesticides in our yard, but the neighbors can. And there's chemicals in our water probably, and there's Wi-Fi in our house, and we can't control all these things. So we were introduced to a way that, through plant nutrition could actually empower his genetic expression to fight against all that damage. So we did biohacking at 5 years old. And within 30 days, he was showing enormous improvement in his ability to sit down and focus. We just got his report card today. He just finished first grade, and all, in our world, straight A's. He loves academics. He loves learning. He's doing division, and he's 7 years old. And so we biohack with plant nutrition, and we do the best we can as parents to control some of these other things, but we can't control everything. And my 5-year-old, we've just decided to do the same thing with him because I'm not extra protection. And we exercise the heck out of those guys. We run them like puppies because we have a trampoline in our backyard. We've got the sandbox. We do balloon volleyball in the house. We do anything and everything to manage that energy because that's also biohacking. That's also helping control the biology by helping move that energy that little boys get pent up. And, it helps them relax and helps their brain.
Wow. Oh my God. This is incredible. This is exactly what this is exactly what I'm hoping that, people are going to start to get. We're all doing it. It's just, it really is, behavior. We behave our ways, and even taking something is a behavior. So, last question. And, as a person sort of imbibing abundance, do you think that the abundance mindset is increasing your desire to live as long a life, capital L, as you possibly can?
Absolutely. I'm one of those people that actually fears death because I'm afraid of missing out. of what's going to happen